The following program is intended for mature audiences.
TBS, America's #1 independent television network, presents the following sports exclusive.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
The absolute worst!
Zach, you have an NHL question?
Yes, I just wanted to get the temperature north of the border. Mike, how are things in Leafland the Monday after they lost to a 42-year-old Zamboni driver emergency backup goaltender and then made exactly one trade where they retained salary for a fifth-round draft pick on trade deadline day? And the Leafs are currently, they're in third place in the Atlantic, hanging on by a deer thread because they actually have less points than Carolina and Columbus do in the wild card. So,
first off, let me jump in really quick. It was awesome that Zamboni driver did what he did. He gave up 2 goals on his first 2 shots and stopped 8 the rest of the way and got a win in the National Hockey League.
I forgot to mention the Zamboni driver also gets paid by the Maple Leafs to be their Zamboni driver.
He was wearing a Marlies helmet, Mike. That's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, no, he was.
Yeah. Had Canes gear on other than that, but still, that was an awesome story. I just loved that. I loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, yeah, it's one game. Come on.
No, it's fun. It's
it was real fun. Real fun for everyone. That's what that was.
I want to know why the other sports don't do this.
Well,
why you can't have a guy in the stands at Major League Baseball games as the emergency backup catcher?
What, like in the NFL, if
yes.
string quarterback goes down, it's like, oh, well, we got to grab someone from the stands.
No, you have it just like the NHL does. You got the Zamboni driver. You find like a groundskeeper that played quarterback in high school, and he's your 4th guy. Simple as that.
I don't think you do it for QB. You probably have to do it for kicker, right?
Okay, so you have to – okay, so Greg.
QB would be more fun, but yeah.
You have to understand, Greg, that, like, this is one of those weird things in hockey that's like a remnant from like before it was a fully professional thing, where it's like, if all your goalies get hurt, then the guy who drives a Zamboni there, he'll be the goalie, or like
in the earliest days of the NHL, there were no backup goaltenders. Like every team had one goalie.
Well, is this like from the days of the Toronto Boat Club or whatever they were era NHL?
It's one of these weird like this isn't the only time this has happened. Like a few years ago, the Ducks had to start the Ducks had to have their goaltender coach Dwayne Rollison, as the backup.
Well, last year the Blackhawks had an accountant come out of the stands,
right? And that's I love this. I do. I think it's the greatest thing in sports because it's awesome.
It's just one of those things where it's like, it's a remnant basically of
actually,
like.
Now that I think of it, the Hurricanes actually had to do this last year too.
Did they?
Yeah. They tried to get the guy like in at the very last second to like earn a win or earn some playing time, but the guys were like, no, you can't just put in this emergency backup for no reason. Like, put him back on the bench.
I do have a legitimate hockey question. I think I've asked this before, but wouldn't it make more sense to say take a defenseman and put him in goalie pads? Is it just that foreign? I mean, I know like in baseball, I was a catcher for years, and it's like not the easiest position to play, but it's not like impossible for a left fielder to come in and catch for an inning, is what I'm saying.
I don't remember when they made this a rule, because I remember back when around the time the Ducks won the Cup, so like 2007. They did an interview, and somebody pointed out that George Peros, who is now the NHL director of safety, who was their enforcer at the time, he was designated as the emergency guy, that if both goalies had to go down, he would strap on the pad. So I think in the rare occasions like a player could be designated the emergency goalie. I don't know when it became. It is now required, that every team have an emergency goalie at the ready for either team to use in each city. So I don't know when, but it did used to be just, whoever was on the fourth line, just right. Hey, somebody just go sit in there and take the pads, because they do this in soccer all the time. If both your goalies have been ejected or whatever, you can get a defenseman to switch on the jerseys and give them the gloves.
Well, soccer is another sport where they could do this, and it would be awesome. I just love the fact that this guy could have theoretically. What happens? I mean, just on the off chance that all four goalies go down in the same game, then what do you do?
Well,
does he skate back and forth really fast or what?
I don't know if they've had thought that one through yet.
And there is something to consider about goaltending in hockey, which is that the skates are different.
Okay.
Like,
all right, that's fair.
If you are a goalie, you wear completely different skates that it's hard to describe if you've never actually skated, but like you skate differently in goalie skates than you do in regular skates. And so if you're going to have someone who's not a goalie be the emergency backup goalie, then they need to know how to skate in goalie skates, because it is a very different kind of thing. It's not so different that if you're not a goalie and you put on goalie skates, you won't be able to skate, but the way that the blades handle is very different. Like,
I would think so, because you're not moving up and down the ice as a goalie.
No, you cannot skate fast in goalie skates. It's
right.
impossible. It's near impossible. I mean, you kind of can for short bursts, but it's going to be hell on your feet.
Which reminds me, they only did it like twice, but the NHL All-Star Skills Competition needs to bring back the goalie race.
The goalie race is the funniest crap imaginable. Like skating, like doing the skating drills with the players was how our coach would punish us as goalies if he was mad at us. Like, it is a very different animal to skate in goalie skates. So ideally, if you're going to put a player in goalie pads, they need to have at least some experience using goalie skates, or else that will be a very interesting experience for them.
That explains to me why, like when a brawl breaks out at center ice, it takes the goalies forever to get there.
Oh yeah, you can't.
I get that fast now, because I remember this one always sticks out in my head. It was way back in the mid '90s. Ron Hextall and Felix Potvin were like the last two to join this brawl between the Flyers and the Leafs. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching the highlights, and it's like, damn, these just don't want to get into this. But it's because they just couldn't skate any faster than that.
No, you can't. Between the pads and the way that goalie skates are, like, they're a lot more dull, and the way that, and they're very tight, so you can't really skate fast. And the way that the blades are cut, it's made to emphasize side to side movement,
right?
And not, forward movement. They're very good to skate backwards in, but not so much to skate forward in.
I did not know that they wore different skates until just now.
Yeah,
did not know that.
There are a lot of differences. They're shorter, as an example. Like they're not. They don't go as high up on the ankle. They're a lot tighter. Like, no joke. Like, you can goalie skates are supposed to hurt your feet when you first put them on. You have to break them in, and the blades are a lot duller compared to player skates. And again, the blades are mostly cut to emphasize side to side movement.
I did not know that, so that explains a lot. It explains a whole lot of things. But yeah, back to the guy. Well, first off, Mike, you're not the only one that's going to get screwed by this, because that win for Carolina might cost my Jackets a shot at the playoffs. You just don't know. So I could end up getting on losing into this too. It won't make me think it's any less cool that it happened, but
look, I wouldn't expect
they're selling. The Hurricanes are selling jerseys with the guy's name on it.
Oh, of
hell
course
yeah!
Of course they are, because this is a trash franchise run by a trash person. Killed by beloved AAF.
He will get a portion of the proceeds, as will a kidney charity. So it's not for them.
I do have
and then what does he do it for? What does he kill the AAF for? So he can make the Eastern Conference Finals and get swept by Boston. Thank you, Hurricanes. for everything, you fucking trash team and your Ranger knockoff jerseys. I hate you.
So you're not going to watch the outdoor game that they're hosting next year, then?
No.
Okay.
Carolina's hosting an outdoor. Well, I guess if California can do it, Carolina.
Yeah, they got the Stadium Series game next year.
Are they going to play yet? Have they released who they're playing?
Who they're playing? No, I think the leading candidate right now is the Penguins.
I think it should be Toronto. Let's do this again and bring that guy back and have him play goalie one more time. Let's see what he can do against like 25 shots.
Can we get like a team of Zamboni drivers playing against each other?
I think that what makes it just pure poetry is the fact that it was a Zamboni driver. If it had been an accountant out of the stands, it still would have been cool, but not as cool as this. Come on.
No, it's the Marlies Zamboni driver.
Right. That's the beauty of it.
And the best part was because he practices regularly with the team because all NHL teams use a third goalie in practice just so the other goalies don't get worn to hell. So he was scheduled to be on the ice with the Maple Leafs this morning and showed up, sure enough. And he's like, "Hey, I beat you guys last night." So, that was good.
So that kind of year for your Leafs, Mike. I think some of us pick them to make the finals this year.
It's been one of those years, man.
They've had a rough go for sure.
I can swear I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure that at least one of us picked them to make the finals this year.
It's been one of those bloody years.
God, well, if they can get in the playoffs, though, anything can happen because they clearly have some talent, or we wouldn't.
I mean, they're very talented. When I say it's been one of those years, I mean it. Like, not only do they do they have a lot of talent, but this is a team that at one point during the year rattled off 9 straight wins. So, I mean, they can do it. They're just at a really funky spot right now, and they need to get the fuck over themselves, more or less. Like, I don't like it's whoever they end up getting as a long-term replacement at head coach. Like, they need someone who can get the team out of the mental funk that they're in.
Is the current guy still the interim, or I thought he was named the head coach?
Was he named that? If he has, I missed that.
Yeah, I thought he was. I don't know, but I mean, they're as it stands right now on Monday afternoon, trade deadline day, they are 32, 23, and 8, 72 points. That makes them 13 points behind Tampa Bay for second place. So if the Leafs make the playoffs, it's most likely going to be right there because in the wild card, you have the Islanders in the top spot with 76 points. The Hurricanes in the second wild card with 74 points. And then right behind that, you have Columbus at 74. In their 5 wins behind Carolina, so I think the Columbus would have beat them outright. And then right behind that, you have the Rangers at 70 points and the Florida Panthers at 70 points. Now, the Panthers are in the Maple Leafs division, so they could get edged out by Florida, of all things. They could end up with a worse record than New York at the end of it. If things don't ship up here in the last month and a half.
I mean, if they're able to hold it together, then let me just take a quick look at the standings here. I believe, assuming everything kind of stays on pace where it is, Leafs Lightning in the first round wouldn't be too bad. I'd get to go see it, so that would be cool.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to tell who's who.
Oh, well, just that's how I get around wearing visiting team gear in in the arena, right? Nobody's going to be able to tell. They're just like, I don't know, he's wearing a white jersey with blue stripes. Looks good to me.
if the playoffs are right now, Mike, it would be kind of a worst case scenario playoffs for you in terms of hate, because you'd get Tampa in the first round, and then if you did happen to make it through, you'd play the winner of Boston, Carolina, who I know you love both.
I mean, no. I mean, I'm not happy with Carolina, but I'll say straight up, I'll take Carolina every time. I'm tired of Boston. Fuck them. Even if we got by Tampa, and then lost to Carolina, I'd still be happy with it. I'd be like, well, at least it wasn't Boston again. That's how tired I'm of Boston. So it's I wouldn't that's an easy choice on my end. But speaking of it, I'm going to the Lightning Leafs game tomorrow, so that'll be fun.
Oh, there you go. Playoff preview.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the West really quick. Look at the bottom of the West. I mean, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we'll say, it was unthinkable. L.A. bringing up the rear, Anaheim right after that, San Jose, Chicago.
Yeah, that's
the Evergreen Minnesota Wild, Nashville, the Purds. Look, what's up with Winnipeg? What are they doing all the way down here?
Winnipeg has had a rough year, but again, I mean, they're 1 point out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, they're not.
Nashville's 2 points out.
Yeah,
Minnesota's probably done.
Yeah, from Minnesota on down is dead. Like the Wild already fired Bruce Boudreau. They haven't gotten any better since. They didn't make any real trades of note, today. So they're down the tubes. Chicago was hanging around for a minute. They made a run where they got within like 3 points of a spot and then fell back down. And then the California trio we all knew the Kings and Ducks were going to be bad, but the Sharks have taken a precipitous drop to the bottom.
I'm just looking at Minnesota, and I go, the problem here is really simple. Other than the fact they haven't scored as many goals as the other teams, they're really good. Really.
I mean, it's always been their problem. You take away all those losses and make wins out of them, and look at the difference. I'm just saying, and then the goddamn Vegas Golden Knights. Fuck them.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to experience that firsthand again last night. And I got to go. We didn't talk about the Vegas game when I went, but Vegas games are a fun time. I hate all the people in the building, but it's fun.
Yeah.
But that Pacific Division is nuts because all those teams aren't really that good. And
look at the Oilers, Lo. Come on.
Vegas is at 76, Edmonton 73, Vancouver 72, Calgary 70, Arizona 70.
I'm calling it right now. I'm calling my shot right now. My St. Louis Blues are going to repeat as Stanley Cup champions. There you go. They're here first, ladies and gentlemen.
They're the easy favorite out of the West because none of the Pacific teams are all that good. Like, they're going to make the playoffs because somebody has to, but Vancouver's not ready. Edmonton is Connor McDavid and guys still.
Connor McDavid and 19 left wingers.
Okay, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and other. Calgary is the way Calgary is playing this year is exactly how I thought they would have played last year. Because last year they were a 100-point team or whatever, and that just wasn't who they were. Arizona is going to be lucky to make it, but I don't know if anybody's going to catch them. Like, Nashville has all these games in hand, but they're their own special dumpster fire. The West is so bad this year. So then it's really between St. Louis and Colorado, and I don't know if Colorado's really up there yet, and Dallas is not good enough yet. I don't think either, or not good enough. I don't think they're going to get any better.
That's what I was looking at in the East, too. It's like Carolina and the Islanders both have, and the Rangers all have games in hand over the Jackets and the Maple Leafs. I was going to call them the Blue Jays, the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. We're still, we got 63 games, say it's the most. So we got that makes 19 left. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll get interesting here in the next week or two.
Hey, you know what? At least Ottawa and Detroit are bringing up the rear in the East. Fuck those guys.
Detroit has already been mathematically eliminated.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, they're already out. Now, this is the Detroit Red Wings that I grew up with, guys. This is them right here. 15, 45, and 4. That's them.
This is beautiful. I love it.
To Mike and I, the standings look completely upside down. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
Well, and the West, they kind of looked that way to me. And the East is, more or less about where you'd expect. There's a couple teams that aren't where they should be, but like the Montreal is way down at the bottom.
I thought Montreal was going to have a better year than this.
They were hanging around for a bit, and they just kind of started slowly falling back. I mean, they need an overhaul again.
They need an overhaul. Unfortunately, they're married to their GM because he's one of the few people qualified for the job who speaks French. So,
well,
is he even that qualified for the job?
I mean,
I wouldn't hire Mike Bergevin or Mark Bergevin. It's just ugh.
I just think it's funny. This is the Detroit Red Wings that I knew until they started ascending in the late '80s, early '90s. When they started getting good again. Even later than that.
I just hope Nashville fucking loses, man. God damn.
They will.
I just hope they don't even make the playoffs. I want to see how
But
that's...
Mike, what's the food section going to do if the Purds don't make the playoffs? What are they going to lead with?
Look, the Purds are one of those special snowflake fan bases that needs to experience some dejection.
Yeah.
Yeah. They haven't had too much. But as I was scrolling through the standings, I didn't realize it was this bad. I knew they were bad, but to just bang on the Detroit point one more time. Look at the goal differentials around the league.
Oh my God.
So LA, this is the bottom of the West. LA is minus 47. The Ducks are minus 36. The Sharks are minus 44. Let's go to the bottom of the East. New Jersey's minus 43. Ottawa's minus 48. The Detroit Red Wings are a solid minus 110.
Well, you see what they're doing here is they're using that advanced metric that Minnesota uses. It's just not working for them yet. With the we're good, we just don't score as many goals as the other team, but they're really taking it to the absolute extreme. Jesus, they're fucking terrible.
They have, I believe they've allowed the most goals in the league, and I believe they have scored the least amount of goals in the league.
Well, let's see. Goals for
numbers, that seems right. So
yeah, 134. Here we go. Goals against. Let's reverse that. Yep, straight to the top. 240. A full 38 goals ahead of Florida.
They've scored 26 goals less than the Kings.
28 goals ahead.
They've scored 26 or 24 goals less than the Kings. And, yeah.
This is hubris, This is what happens, Red Wings fans, when your team puts a 25 straight playoff appearances graphic on center ice.
Not even the Blues did that. That was all they had to hold on to.
Well, and not only that, guys, but Detroit. Well, I guess they've played the most games in the league. So I was going to say I thought they've done it in less games, but they haven't. So they're 64.
Guys, I'm actually getting a note here. Despite Seattle not being in the league yet, Detroit is actually lower in the standings than Seattle.
So the Seattle insert team name here's are higher up. Gotcha.
Yes.
Seattle, definitely not the Krakens, are.
I am going to hate this team forever if they become the Krakens.
That was the report, and everybody seemed like they were on it, and then everybody denied it like immediately after too. I hope it's not. That would be the dumbest shit. It really would be.
You know that they are going to play that clip from Clash of the Titans relentlessly if that's the team name.
Oh, that when they come on the ice, release the Kraken.
The Kraken, yeah, exactly. Which is what I say when I let my cat out of the basement. Release the Kraken.
They have some easy go-tos that'll be fine. I know you want to make your mark, but don't be weird. Just don't be fucking weird.
Don't pick a name that in 15 years you have to consider replacing. Because
I think they should go with something airline oriented myself, but that's just me. But,
I mean, in my opinion, they should be the Seattle Metropolitans, but they can't because the NHL's stupid alignment ruins all the good things.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, I was to get back to the original topic. It was fun watching I watched the highlights of the Zamboni guy, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Really real cool.
First two shots against for goals, but thankfully it ended up being a 6-3 game. So.
One of the Kings players came up and said, "Dude, we don't care if you give up goals, just have fun." And after that, he chilled out and he stopped the next 8 shots. So not bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, no, things are fine, Mike. It's fine. It's fine. You haven't won a cup since 1967, and there's still time.
You still got. Well, yeah. I don't know. I don't want to say it's not promising this year, but it's not promising this year that you're going to break the spell, even though we thought you were going to. But anyway, let's go to something Mike get a little more.
One of these years it's going to happen, and I'm going to exact my vengeance on all of you.
Well, you know what? I would agree with you, except for one thing. We've had one of these years for a whole bunch of teams since we've been doing this show. And like the Indians got passed over, the Browns, the Maple Leafs, some of these, the Lions. So I'm not so sure because
eventually the law of numbers says it has to happen.
That's what you would think, but just ask the Detroit Lions about that. I mean, they have been around continuously and never even sniffed the Super Bowl. So I don't know.
I think the thing right now with the Leafs though is they did the tanking plan, right? And then they're essentially it's like the 76ers, right? where you did the tanking plan, and then it worked. You got what you wanted. You got the free agent you wanted, and now it's like, okay, everything's in place. Here we go. We're gonna do this thing, and then you don't. And then they've kind of false started. They got to the playoffs and then they got beat by the Bruins. Well, it's fine. They're going to learn. It's going to be great. We're going to come back next year and be good. Play the Bruins again and lose. And now you're kind of in this middling season. You fired the coach. It hasn't jumped them up the standings like they thought. They've, it's the backup goalie that's the problem. They get a new backup goalie. It's okay. Well, we need new defense. Well, they shuffle the defense a little bit. Still doesn't really make a difference. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, the biggest problem is not that they need to shuffle they need a completely new defensive core. The defense of this team has been terrible, and that has always been the problem of this iteration of the Maple Leafs, is that the defense has been weak. And
the Leafs are second in the league in scoring. They're a goal behind Tampa for the most goals in the league right now. But they've also let up 210, so they're only plus 10 total on the season right now. Tampa plus 50.
The problem's the defense, and it's not a matter rearranging pieces isn't going to do it. They need better players. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, well, they tried shuffling bits and pieces, but they need an overhaul somehow, and it's hard to do when you're trying to also play for a cup while also saying, we need an entirely new defense at the same time. So
yeah, it doesn't usually work out so well, really, in any sport.
I thought for sure the Leafs would have been a candidate today to go out and make a big trade for a defenseman, or like I know Josh Manson on the Ducks was a guy that he has a no move clause. He's good. I wouldn't mind keeping him around, but I also realized that we need, stuff and other people need defensemen. So I thought that he would be a guy that could go to Toronto. And I know he was talked about like a month ago, but the Leafs just didn't make any big moves. And I know that teams are always reticent to kind of mortgage everything to go for it, especially when you're in the spot Toronto is now, where it's like, well, maybe do we even make the playoffs? But what would be a real disaster is if they don't even make the playoffs. Like, right now it's okay because you're in a playoff spot and we'll make the playoffs to see what happens. If the Leafs somehow end up behind freaking Florida or the Rangers and miss the playoffs, like that's a 5-alarm fire at that point.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that. Honestly, the whole GM situation there has never really impressed me. The current GM.
You're not a fan of the boy wonder, Kyle Dubas?
No, I'm suspicious of analytics, the best of times. But I'm just a guy, man, and if I can see that, this team's defensive situation is a problem, and I don't even need to look at stats to understand that, I just watched the damn team, then, if you are supposedly this wunderkid hockey genius, then God damn it, like, at least put some feelers out, try to see what you can get for defense, and, maybe you have to give up someone. Maybe you have to give up one of the multitude of offensive options the team has, but, this team is likely not going to win a Stanley Cup with the defense as it's currently constructed because it's bad. So
it's something interesting that as much as people want all these new voices in hockey and new perspectives, like what the analytics bring or bringing a young GM like him brings in, hockey, especially if you look at days like today on trade deadline day, hockey is still about working with your friends, right?
Yeah. All
these GMs love to trade with their old buddies, their old teammates, the guys they've worked with for ages. Like, two of the biggest trades today were from Detroit to Edmonton. Well, who's the GM in Detroit? Well, it's Steve Yzerman. Who's the GM in Edmonton? Well, it's Ken Holland. Who used to be the GM in Detroit and drafted Steve Yzerman. And then you have Kyle Dubas. It's like, well, maybe you haven't made these lifelong blood pacts with people.
I mean, a lot of it,
I'll trade them forever. So
I think it's two things. I think one, it's hockey is, as you said, there is a boys club that's there, and if you're not part of that group, you're going to have a bad time, or at least you won't have the connections that some other guys have.
You have to be that much smarter than everybody else, and it doesn't seem like he is.
Also, on top of that, and this is, again, another kind of anti-analytics thing, but, like, at the end of the day, hockey's kind of a very simple game. And, you can say, you could say, oh, we want these young perspectives, we want these new voices, we want this new way of kind of looking at the game. But at the end of the day, hockey's not complicated. And the guy who's not beholden to a management ideology or a philosophy, who just goes, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to assemble the best hockey team I can, is probably going to have more success than a guy who is kind of like, oh, I know I need to do it the proper way. Because newsflash, the only proper way to build a hockey team is to build a good hockey team. Even if you account for the boys club mentality that exists, like, even if you're not necessarily part of that in-group, if you just go into the job going like, I'm going to try to build the best hockey team I can of the pieces I have, you're probably going to have more success than some guy who's going to try to build the best analytic super team, because, again, hockey's not that complicated.
We now join the following program already in progress.
The Raptors have a better record than the Clippers, just saying.
Yeah, I know.
The Raptors went on that, 14-game winning streak? That was...
See, it's funny, like, I can follow the league and pay attention to the league without ever watching a game.
Exactly, that's what I do. I can kind of tell you who's pretty good and who's not and all that, but to sit down and watch a game, it's not like it's terrible. It's just
no stakes. So
I am saying, just kind of glancing at the standings, we are on pace for my NBA championship prediction to bear out. I predicted Lakers Bucks, and those are the two top teams so far.
That'd be a hell of a series, I think. Giannis versus LeBron and Anthony Davis and all that.
And of course, the Clippers lose in the first round to the Jazz after Kawhi Leonard's leg explodes.
Right, exactly. We were talking earlier about this is going to happen eventually for some teams. The Clippers are a perfect example of how that's just simply not true.
I have faith that the Toronto Maple Leafs will win a Stanley Cup before the Los Angeles Clippers win an NBA championship.
I don't know. I guess
if the Clippers ever did it, it would be the greatest story in sports. Because they're not going to win it when, like, if they can't win it when they make one of these teams, they're going to win it with something real dumb. You know? They're going to win with, like, the worst NBA champion of all time.
They're going to win in 3 years after, Paul George and Kawhi leave, and they have no draft picks and no cap space, and it
will literally have to be like a Miracle on Ice thing where they just assembled a college all-star team somehow. So the entire team get nothing but second-round picks and just make a basketball team and try.
I want to say that the Bullets team that won the championship was like 41-41 that year. I might be wrong about that, but I seem to remember that was the case. Maybe I can look it up.
It's just weird. You can't.
But you know what I'm saying? That's how the Clippers are going to do it. They'll go like into the playoffs at 41-41, and I don't know what'll happen, but it'll be something remarkably dumb. And the next thing you know, they're going to be hoisting the trophy.
Yeah,
and
you know
we'll
what?
they're
going to be hoisting the trophy in those stupid fake gangster Compton uniforms.
Right, exactly. Which I think is part of their problem. I think that had Compton gotten on board with them, who knows,
Well, the problem is, as I said in the thread, is that the Clippers have been irrelevant for so long that both quote-unquote Hollywood and Compton are Lakers fans. So it's like Clippers fans are trying to do this thing where it's like, oh, the Lakers are Hollywood, but we're like the streets. It's like, nah, man, you're nobody. Like, the streets in LA are like that. That's Lakers territory too, because you're the fucking Clippers, and nobody cares.
Wait a minute. Oh, okay. All right. Let me see. I want to see what the Bullets. I'm almost positive that they were like 41-41, but I could be wrong. But let me just check here.
Okay, so the Washington Bullets, the year that they won the NBA championship, were 44-38.
44-38, yeah, and they are considered one of the worst teams to ever win a championship.
Considering how the top teams in the NBA win usually, that does sound pretty bad to only be, 4 games over 500.
They were second in their division.
Yeah. This is your Clippers team. This is how it's going to happen. It's like the 77-78 Bullets.
Okay, the 1978 NBA Central Division is the dumbest division by geographical spread. Okay, the Central Division includes the San Antonio Spurs, the Washington Bullets, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks, the New Orleans Jazz, and the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, that's pretty central. Yeah, kind of, I suppose, right? If you're counting the oceans. Yeah, but that's going to be your Clippers team right there, like the Bullets. I think, were they the worst? Is that the worst record to ever win? Yeah. So there you go.
That
was close.
Okay, so I'm looking at the rest of the NBA that year, and it seems like all the other divisions are pretty neatly organized in terms of geography. Like, you've got the Atlantic Division, which is like the Atlantic Seaboard in the Northeast. You got the Midwest Division, everyone's in the Midwest. You got the Pacific Division, that's, along, the West Coast. So I can only imagine that the Central Division was just the stuff teams left over after they made the other divisions. And they're like,
well, I like looking at the Eastern Conference standings for that year, okay? Number 1 seed, Philadelphia 76ers. Number 2 seed, that East Coast Monaco of the Atlantic Seaboard, the San Antonio Spurs. Number 2 of the Eastern Conference. Followed by the Cavs, Knicks, Hawks, and then the New Orleans. Everybody else is, Houston, you can't really make that argument, or New Orleans for that matter. But other than that, the Eastern Conference is pretty straight. But yeah, the Central Division was a disaster.
So
San Antonio.
In 2017, FoxSports.com ranked every NBA champion in "quote unquote" modern history, which is, from the merger on. So the Bullets were the worst one on there, 44-38. The second worst one they ranked was the 99 Spurs, who were 37-13 in a strike-shortened season.
I don't know. That's a pretty good record for only 50 games, isn't it?
And then you have the 77 Trailblazers.
Yeah, they weren't great either.
49-33 with Bill Walton. And then after that, it's like the 2011 Dallas Mavericks, who were 57-25. It's not bad. And then all the teams get better and better, like the 90s Pistons, the 79 Sonics, 81 Celtics, on and on and on.
Oh, so who is the greatest? I got to think it's got to be, the 85 Lakers?
96 Bulls.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do not agree with that. The regular season record I'll go along with, but I'm telling you, that 85 Lakers team.
Is this a case where is this like the time where you try to talk us into Joe Montana being better than Tom Brady?
No, this is actually a little less subjective than that, I think. I really do. I think if you just look at the teams player for player, and their eras aren't that far apart, so you can't even really use that argument. Because we're talking the Lakers won their last title in 88, and the Bulls won their first one in 93, something like that. So you're only talking like a 5-year spread there. But if you look at roster for roster, that Bulls team versus like one of those great Lakers or Celtics teams, you're going to see that like player for player starting 5, the Lakers and the Celtics were both better than those Bulls teams. Simple as that.
Then you're not going to like this list very much, Greg. You have the 96 Bulls number 1. This was done in 2017, by the way. So it has the 2017 Warriors at number 2.
Okay, fine, but
the
all right.
2001 Lakers.
The
86 Celtics.
That's what I'm saying, though. The 86 Celtics were really, really good.
87 Lakers.
Yeah.
2014 Spurs. 2008 Celtics? No.
No.
2016 Cleveland Cavaliers?
No. Are you kidding me?
83
It was LeBron, Kyrie Irving, and a bunch of dudes. Oh, no, Kevin Love played for that team, too. They weren't too bad, I guess.
83 Sixers, 91 Bulls. Then number 11, they have the 85 Lakers.
Yeah, I guess the 85 Lakers are probably more famous for being the first Lakers team to finally beat Boston in Boston to win a title. But, yeah, they weren't as good as the 87 Lakers either.
Wow, and the Lakers lost the first game of that series by 34 points.
Oh, I remember watching it. I was miserable, just miserable. And then I was like, oh, my God, Boston's going to do it to us again. And then it was just beautiful after that. And I remember I had a game, the Sunday they won, I had a game. I was hungover as all hell. And the game was on the afternoon, so I got to watch the Lakers win the championship with a hangover, and then I got to go play ball that night. But yeah, it was awesome. I still remember Kareem getting all fired up when they finally like pretty much put it away. One of the great sports moments of my life. It was just awesome. But anyway, but I do think that if you count regular season records, then yeah, you've got to put like the Warriors up there and the Bulls. And I'm not saying the Bulls teams weren't great. They were. But I just think that if you look at like player for player, like, okay, the 87 Lakers, you had Byron Scott, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis with Michael Thompson coming off the bench. The Bulls did not have that kind of lineup. I'm sorry. They had Jordan, Pippen, and like two white dudes and some big guy at center. That's what they had. Oh, they had Rodman too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, Rodman. All right.
Or did Rodman come back for the second three?
He was there for the second three, I think. When was the first? Who they have like this won the Bulls? 96?
It was 96. Yeah, I closed.
So that's the first. That's the first of three. 96, 97, 98, right?
That's the second of three. The second of the
three
first of the second three. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, so Rodman was on that team. Okay, so you got Rodman, Pippen, Jordan. I don't know who the two guards were.
Was that
Steve Kerr was on that team? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Steve Kerr. I don't know who their point guard was. Was it Ron Harper, B.J. Armstrong, maybe? But the point is that I think that player for player, and the Lakers had better depth, I think, on the bench. I'm not saying that the Bulls like would have just rolled over and died for them, but I'm saying that using what best measurements we can use, and like I said, they weren't that far apart era-wise. I think the Lakers had more talent, and the Celtics too, for that matter. Well, maybe I think the Celtics are closer to the Bulls in that they had like 3-4 really good guys and then a bunch of guys that weren't so great. But who knows? Anyway, so I'm more willing to budge on that than I am the Brady Montana thing. But yeah. So to get back to the original point, it will be a team like the Bullets if the Clippers ever win the title. So
they won't, but
if it should ever accidentally happen, that's how it'll happen.
No, again, like we've talked about the 70s NBA as being like such a weird thing, just with all the different champions.
You had the Knicks. You had the Knicks get it twice. The Bucks got theirs in the 70s.
There's no way the NBA could ever go back to that sort of
chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that for a second. Let's see, there was the Knicks twice. The Lakers got one in there. I think the Celtics had one in the 70s too. But then you had the Warriors, the Bucks, the Sonics, the Blazers, and who was the other weird team that won in that era? That might be it. Right? I closed the list out.
Didn't the Kings, Royals?
No, their only title is like in the 40s.
Mm.
Oh, you guys, the Kansas City Omaha Kings, I thought was the funniest thing ever. Not like the Kansas City, I don't know, suburb of Kansas City Kings. No, Kansas City and Omaha, which I think are pretty far apart. So they're splitting their season, like the Rays want to do with this Montreal Tampa thing. Which, why not just play half the season on the North Pole and half on the South Pole? That's as far apart as you can get, basically. But that's so stupid. I think it's actually going to happen, believe it or not. God, that fucking sport. Do we want to do Mike's XFL? Do we want to talk a little bit about how baseball is just imploding on itself right now?
We can do both. I don't know. We've talked about the death of baseball forever. No, it's actually funny that like, if anything, baseball might be healthier now because of the stupid Astros thing.
Right, but this Astros thing has just gotten way. I mean, it's just like wow. I mean, the depths of this thing. People calling to ban these players for life and all this other stuff. It's like, look, the committee.
What I find hilarious are the Astros players themselves getting offended. It's like, you guys were caught fucking cheating. Deal with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, it didn't affect the game.
It did.
I never said that it did.
He felt that it didn't.
I never said that it didn't. I said that it did. That's what their owner basically did. What you just he goes, it didn't affect the game, and people are like, yes, it did. He goes, I never said it didn't. It's like Jesus Christ, you can't even get your shit together.
Like 5 minutes ago. And then he said something like, God, we were still a good team. Like, they have handled this.
Oh my God! If they wanted to make a comedy skit out of this, they wouldn't do a thing differently. Not one thing.
It's incredible how
it really is, and
they've made themselves complete villains because at this point, like, if you're going to keep acting like this, at some point, just say, we cheated, we still won, deal with it. Like, because that's essentially what you're doing without like being upfront about it.
My only thing is, look, I think what they did was bad. And, certainly, like, if you can get on second base and pick up the catcher's signs, if a guy's clearly tipping his pitches, that's fair game. But what they were doing was, like, just next level stuff, man. The garbage can, the whistling, the buzzers, whether they want to admit it or not, whether MLB wants to admit it or not, those guys were wearing fucking buzzers, and we all know it. And all that nonsense, that's just like, come on.
I mean, it's hilarious because I'm in a fantasy baseball league, and we're talking about the upcoming draft, and someone's like, I want to take the trash can first.
I'll take the center field camera and the monitor.
Well, yeah, like this season, like with having the Astros be these villains is going to be great for one of two reasons. Either they come out and are garbage, and it's like, oh yeah, this is what you deserve, you pieces of crap. Or they go off on a tear and just say F you to the rest of the league and like go and be the best team.
But that's the thing. League. If they do that though, but no one's going to believe it if they do it. That's the thing. No matter what, it's like the Patriots. I mean, except worse, because the Patriots, it was always like, okay, they cheated a little bit, or they cheated, but we can't really see like the full advantage of their cheating. Well, I guess you kind of can, but with this is like, if you know anything about baseball, this is so obviously a huge advantage in their favor. Yeah. And so if they're good,
you bastards broke Clayton Kershaw's spirit.
You did. That poor bastard. Remember the way he looked on the bench, and now you find out it was like, well, it wasn't even his fault.
And he's like, everything they say about me in the postseason is true, and then
except it's not.
Except it's not. Maybe you could have won a World Series, man. Like,
if I was that poor bastard, I would have gotten up and said, okay, maybe it's not me. I hope he goes out. I hope the Dodgers. Well, I kind of hope the Dodgers make the World Series, and he goes out as like a 1 ERA through the whole thing because nobody knows what he's throwing.
What do you think about? Because everybody in the league is going to want to like peg them, every time they go to bat.
I don't know.
And then you have like the players, or was it Manfred or somebody stepping in like, or no, it was Dusty Baker that was like advocating like, hey, we don't want, guys. Somebody's got to look in to make sure that our guys aren't getting killed all year. It's like, well, I don't know what to do about that because you kind of deserve it. And how does baseball retribution get paid out? Well, I
mean that's sort of how I feel about it. Like, obviously, I'm not going to wish permanent injury or death on anyone, but at the same time, like, short of that, like, they kind of deserve anything they get, man. Like, this wasn't just some small thing. Like, this was a major deal. Like, this is like you guys cheated in one of the most invasive and successful ways possible. Like, you kind of destroyed the credibility of the game. If people want to bean you all day, I'm not sure I'm going to advocate for it, but if they want to do it, I don't think I can say that's, they're wrong.
I think what you'll see is you're going to see them getting knocked on their asses a lot early in the season, and then it'll calm down because that's just the way baseball is. Mm-hmm. But because you can't afford, especially if you're a good team, you can't afford having your guys get suspended and fined over a grudge, say in June or July, or especially down the road as the games get more important. So it'll happen a lot early on, but it'll straighten itself out. But to me, this is like finding out like the '85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens defenses knew all the plays before they were running. That's what made them so good. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, first off, you didn't really need to do that because you were pretty fucking good to begin with. So why do that? And the baseball players aren't smart. You're always going to get caught. I mean, it's as simple as that. No,
I know that's what I'm saying because you mentioned the Patriots, right? You mentioned the Patriots, and I'm like, this is so far below Bill Belichick's usual machinations. Like, Bill Belichick probably like read up on the stories like fucking amateurs. Like,
right, exactly.
Let me show you how to fucking cheat and hold a league and bend a league to your will for 20 years. Like, right. This is like.
But I'd get it if it was like the Detroit Tigers. I'd understand it a little better. But the Astros were stacked. They didn't need to do this. Come on. And to see the way they rebuilt, did the whole thing, and then they go and ruin it with this. Because now you can't take anything they've done seriously. Although, you got to wonder, I mean, well, no, last year in the World Series was the first time the road team won every game, right? Yeah,
that was last year. Yeah.
So, I mean, were they cheating last year and Washington just figured it out? I mean, what happened there? Or was it because Alex Cora was gone and cheated his way to a title for Boston?
Well, somebody ran the stats of like the difference between what the Astros did from one year to the next, and it was like they had it on this graph of like average versus power, and the only team that had like all the other teams in the league were on the same kind of line, like made sense. And the only team that was separated far and away from everybody else was the Houston Astros. It's like, well,
who in an era when strikeouts were going up, dropped their strikeout percentage by like 31%.
Yeah.
How the fuck did that happen?
Well, because they weren't swinging all the crap pitches.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like when you look at the stats, it's very easy to figure out. Like when you look back at Barry Bonds' career, and he went from being like a skinny guy to showing up one day, at spring training, with muscle hanging off of him, and his head had grown 2 hat sizes. So right. It's like, in retrospect, it's kind of obvious what happened.
But here's what I'm saying. Like if I, put me in baseball 20 years ago, I couldn't do it today, but 20 years ago, if you tell me, okay, you've got a scouting report, you go, this guy never throws a breaking ball for a strike, or rarely. And you're going to know when he's throwing a breaking ball and when he's throwing fastballs. I promise if you give me 20 at-bats, I could put the ball in play against him because I know exactly what not to swing. If you're like, okay, it's a breaking ball, don't swing, and he never throws those for a strike, I'm going to at least get a walk. And and I'm not even a major league player. So imagine these guys that are like a George Springer or Carlos Correa or somebody like that with that kind of information. Come on. Man, it's just, I don't know. But what are you going to do? Everybody's like, you got to take the World Series away. You can't do that. Mike's pointed out a million times why you can't do that. You just got to let it stand, because if you don't, then, we're digging through 1924 going, well, what the hell did these guys do?
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like there is the, like you can't set the precedent of retroactively removing championships. That is the way to madness. Because
what happens then is at the end of it all, we have to crown the LA Clippers World Series champions for the last 100 years because that's the only team left. Because they're too fucking stupid to cheat.
It's funny. I mean, because we talked about it too with like college. Like you can't take it away. We saw what happened.
You saw, yeah.
So it's like, oh well, we just didn't award a champion in 1998. Like, okay.
It's like, well, yeah, you did, because we all saw it happen. And
USC had a bunch of wins vacated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, come on, please. Well, it was the Reggie Bush years. It's like I watched those teams; they were really, really good. Mm-hmm. I don't care that he got a house or a car or whatever. Doesn't change the fact the dude was running all over people. Come on. That's just nonsense. That's just, I mean, I get you want the sport to have integrity and all that stuff, but you're just getting ridiculous and you're, changing history. When you're changing things like, they'll be like, well, you know what? We're going to pull like what the Democrats doing in these primaries right now. We're going to declare victory. We don't care what the fuck the vote says. We're just that's it. We're done. We win.
Like, I don't know if you can vacate it, but I think in a situation like this where you can point out a specific team that got caught doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the record book.
You can make some sort of asterisk or like
you can at least
make a footnote.
A note in any of the historical baseball documents or whatever you want to call it, but anything like listed on MLB.com or whatever, they have to say, yeah, look, they won the World Series. They were also busted for cheating their asses off when they won it. But you can't take it away. That's just, you can't do that.
Because I think like the only other time that I can think of something that would be analogous to this in some way and would make sense is if the Black Sox had won the World Series instead of lost it.
Yeah.
Right. But because they lost it, well, you can't take anything away from them, and you're not going to say, well, the Reds didn't really win that series or whatever. It's like,
no. And if you read up on that, a lot of people believe that the White Sox only threw the first game and the Reds just beat them fair and square the rest of the way.
Right.
There's a lot of people that believe that's the way it happened. So who knows?
What I'm saying is the only way it would make sense is if the Black Sox had won that series, they had thrown it by winning it, and I don't know exactly how you do that, but. And then, you take away that title. Well, then there would be precedent. Because that's the other thing. And I heard this on Ryan Russillo's podcast because he made a good point. The NCAA is already too far down this rabbit hole to ever stop doing it. So they just, if there's ever a problem, they just take away the title, and that's just how they do it because that's what they've always done. you don't want to be the guy that sets the precedent of taking away a title, because then what happens the next time there's something that's iffy? Well, do you say, well, hey, they laced the water bottle, so
Well, that's what, but once you've opened that can of worms, now do we go back to the NFC Championship game 2 years ago and go, hey, sorry, Rams, you didn't get there legitimately. So
I think even
though the Saints blew every fucking opportunity they had after that, doesn't matter. That one call is all that matters. You just can't do it.
I think my only thing right now in terms of problems with the Astros punishments, I don't think the players have been, and I know the players were given immunity so that they could participate in the investigation. And if they weren't, then they probably wouldn't have participated in the investigation. But they still did it. So you fired the general manager and the manager and Alex Cora from his other job and Carlos Beltran from his other job. The players are still the ones that went along with the damn thing. They can always say no. And they were the ones that perpetrated the thing.
Well, here's the thing, and there's just two reasons for this. First off, you can't grant someone immunity, get them to testify, and they go, okay, thanks, now we're going to punish you anyway.
Right, I know. I get that.
Secondly, what is the most powerful sports union in all of sports?
Yeah.
It's the MLB Players Association. Yeah. They are not going to stand still for that. So you just basically we just got to eat this one and go, okay, we know they cheated. We know that it's a tainted title and all that,
but that's why I'm okay with if the other players want to go out there and flunk these guys.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that because that's the only way you can enact any sort of punishment against them.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. At this point, it's they deserve everything they get. And
oh, sure. And at least for the first game of every series they play on the road this year, it's going to be brutal, just brutal. And don't they open up in Anaheim this year?
They open up in Anaheim, and I know for a fact there's already a bunch of Dodgers fans groups that have tried to make their way down to the game.
And Angels fans aren't dummies either. They know what's going on. It's going to be rough, man.
We're in the same division. We've been victims of it. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. That just to give you the idea of how far this is going. You've got guys like Mike Judge and Mike Trout.
Yeah, Mike Trout doesn't say anything.
Neither does Judge. They don't say a word about shit. And these guys are coming out.
Things. They just don't talk.
Yeah, and when Mike Trout's coming out going, yeah, this is some bullshit, then this is some bullshit. Simple as that. But it'll be interesting to see. I think they're going to get knocked around for a while early on. I don't think it'll last the whole season. Well, if they're good, it might. If they're playing somebody that's in their same, in a race against them, all bets are off at that point. But if I was Jose Altuve, I'd give me a whole bunch of body armor before I went to the plate this year. I think he's the one they're really going to go after.
Him and Correa,
yeah. And
did you the one defense that I heard from both of those guys that was just insane was, oh no, he didn't want us to rip off his shirt because he was embarrassed about a bad tattoo he got.
Okay, sure.
What?
Yeah.
And then people went and did some Instagram sleuthing, and they found a Instagram post from after that game when he was at the beach. It's I don't see any tattoo. He has one now. He showed it to reporters to defend himself, but it's also yeah, but people saw that it wasn't there after you said it was supposed to.
Not only that, but I don't know if it was Correa or Beltran that said that the reason was because his wife would get mad, or maybe it was Altuve himself that said his wife would have gotten mad at him for showing his body. And then all you got to do is do a search, and there's a ton of pictures of him without his shirt on and pulling his shirt up after he's done something. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
No, he was wearing a buzzer. There's a picture of I think it's Bregman after they'd won something, and you can see the damn thing taped to his chest. It's right there for everybody to see. It's like they were using it's just it was it was broke ass Bill Belichick. It was smart. It just wasn't well executed.
Yeah.
But anyway,
they haven't PR wise they haven't handled it well. The media communications department, but the players themselves have done no help.
No.
Every whenever they're trying to but we didn't. It was actually this. No. Come on. It does not matter at this point.
I have watched so many videos where I've heard the garbage can, and I've heard the whistling, and come on, that you were straight up at home. I don't know how if they were doing it on the road. I don't know if they were or not. And then you look at the home and road splits, and you're like, oh my god. That's everybody. I think no matter other than the very elite players have their home stats are a little bit better than their road stats. But you had guys that were hitting 340 at home, 150 on the road. That's a pretty big disparity there. So yeah, they were cheating. It was terrible, and whatever. They're going to get knocked around and now. I'm curious to see when Mike Fiers of the A's pitches against them this year. That ought to be interesting to watch. Or if they, I don't think they play the Dodgers in interleague play this year, do they? That's too bad.
I don't think so. No.
I'd love to see Clayton Kershaw go against these guys this year. That'd be first fun.
Clayton Kershaw versus Jose Altuve.
Yeah.
Throws it at the side of his head.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. That would be really fun. But yeah, Clayton Kershaw, you're off the hook, bro. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. No. Anyway, Mike, so let's take our last topic of the night here and talk about your XFL experience.
Well,
at the XFL game.
XFL Week 3.
Yes. Home of my undefeated Houston broke-ass Walmart Oilers.
And the home of the first win in LA Wildcats history.
Oh, that was the only game I watched a little bit of. And, man, they just put an ass beating on the D.C. Defenders. It was brutal.
Which nobody thought. Everyone was saying D.C. was the best team in the league. And
the first ever career loss for Cardale Ian Here to Play School Jones as a starter professionally.
Right. Well, I want to bring this up really quick. Do you guys think that, like, we saw LA all of a sudden just, I don't know if Winston Moss finally got, like, his house in order. He whacked a few people and got the people out that he didn't want. But is it just a matter of, like, some of these teams are finally, like, getting it together after such a short training camp and all that? Or is it just one of those things? Maybe. LA looked way better than Washington or DC did yesterday. Way better.
I mean, again,
I would say maybe, but
this is
Houston's looked good the whole time.
This is one Winston Moss calling plays for the Wildcats.
I know. I love Zach's text. That should be when they make a statue of him outside the rec center. It has to be that.
Yeah.
It's just him sitting on the bench, towel around his neck, just hands across the top of the bench, just spreading out, just chilling out on the bench.
And by the way, Tampa Bay Vipers defensive coordinator Jerry Glanville rocking 2 headsets.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I couldn't tell you what that one's about.
So this is going back a bit to week 2, but Jerry Glanville at one point was interviewed on the sidelines in the Tampa Bay Vipers Week 2 game, and they were asking him about play calling on the defensive side for the Vipers. He's like, "We don't like to make too many calls on the defense; it gets too confusing." It's like amazing.
That might explain why your Vipers are 0-3, Mike.
Yeah. So as I told Zach, I got salty with Zach earlier for bragging about. Oh, look at me! I've got a win.
More career XFL wins than Tampa Bay.
So I was at the Tampa Bay Vipers game with my significant other, and ooh boy, that was a fun experience. I sent you guys some pics from the game.
So Mike, clearly the arena was going to be decked out in green, right? And
right. So
that snakehead put on the pirate ship, right?
That was hilarious. So I had kind of been keeping an eye on Raymond James Stadium ever since the Vipers were announced because I was curious to see if they're going to put up any Vipers signage. Nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And then, for like a week and a half or so leading up to the game, I wasn't going out that way. And so when we were driving up to the stadium, I was kind of thinking it's been a week or so, since I saw Raymond James. I wonder, for the home opener, if they're going to bust out some Vipers signage, some Vipers swag. And no.
Maybe like a Vipers tarp, something?
No. There was not even a tarp. I drove up to it, and it's just Buck stuff. It's got like the Buck signage. Okay, there was one thing. As we were walking up to our gate, there was a tiny, I guess, doorway doorway is kind of a weird, like a door frame, like the frame of like a door. There's like these 2 pillars and then a crossbar that were covered in Vipers signage that said "Welcome to the Snake Pit."
Okay.
And
it looks an awful lot like the Buck Pit to me, but okay.
And sitting in front was this guy from the XFL who was handing out like ticket package options or whatnot. And then so you walk in, and again, like all of the signage around the concourse is Bucks themed, right? I got a souvenir one of those free refill souvenir cups. So I only had to pay once for pop, and it had Jameis Winston on it. And the picture I sent you guys, they just flat out had the pirate ship there.
Aren't the Vipers the only team in the league that's playing in an NFL stadium?
No, the Guardians and the Dragons.
Oh, that's right.
And technically, the Battlehawks are playing in a former NFL stadium.
Yeah, but it's not occupied. What I mean, like a team that's occupied by a current NFL team is what I meant.
Well, yes, the Chargers have left the rec center, so that doesn't count either, I guess.
I just think that, especially with the way they've got the Raymond James all decked out, it would be really expensive to cover all that stuff up. Is what I think.
It would be, which is kind of why I'm getting to the idea that, like, I think all of the XFL teams need to start finding smaller venues, and I understand that in Tampa that there really isn't one, but, like, the Rowdies are a thing, so, like, I don't know. I think they need to...
Well, don't the Rowdies play in a converted baseball stadium?
They do, yes.
Yeah.
Do they play where the old Ed Lang Stadium used to be in St. Petersburg? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Or I think it's called Ed something Stadium. It's right on the water.
They play in Al Lang Stadium.
Al Lang, that's what Al Lang Stadium. That's a beautiful spot to watch baseball. But anyway,
so like there have actually been suggestions that should be renovated. So if Al Lang Stadium was to be renovated into like a smaller size stadium, like that was actually a fully functional, just smaller stadium, then that would probably be better for the Vipers. But so yeah, Buck stuff everywhere, which was hilarious. You get to the field, the crowd was about on par with the crowd that was at the Apollos game that we were at last year.
Okay.
But it seemed smaller because that was like 20,000 people in UCF's stadium in Orlando, whereas this was around 18,000 people in Raymond James Stadium. So it's like a good number for the XFL, but you're still very much aware that you're in a giant stadium that's like only partially full.
Well, yeah, because I think Raymond James holds like 65,000, doesn't it?
Yeah, around that.
So you're way short of that.
So like the parts of the stadium that were full, the crowd was pretty great. We had some drunken Bears fans behind us who were assholes.
What the hell were they doing there?
I'm not so like apparently they moved. From what I could gather, they had moved to Tampa, and they'd come out for the Vipers because of Mark Trestman.
Oh my God.
But yeah, no. So once they kind of got drunk, they got really annoying. But I mean, honestly, aside from them, the crowd was fun. Seemed to be a good time. No real like I'd go to another one. So I had fun.
How much were tickets?
I paid. It was $48 for each of us.
Okay.
You sat like down low, middle.
Down low near one of the end zones.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think that's the same pricing as the Wildcats game.
We were down low by one of the end zones, and which meant that we had to watch the jumbotron when the play went down to the other end.
Right.
But the good news is that the first ever Vipers offensive touchdown was scored in the end that we were sitting at, so we got to see that, live.
Mike, up close and personal with history.
Oh yeah. No.
They'll be talking about that for 100 years, Mike.
I mean, of course. My boyfriend, he put up with so much bullshit for me that because so
So on like one end, so Raymond James is kind of interesting in that they have kind of like those concourses that extend over the playing surface on each end. So like there's the one where the pirate ship is at, and like below the pirate ship there's like a whole concourse, an open air concourse that you can go and get food and drinks and hang out. And then there's one on the other end which doesn't have the pirate ship. And the one that didn't have the pirate ship, they had this giant white banner that had the Vipers logo on it, and they were encouraging people to come and sign it for the franchise home opener. And they're like, sign it so you can be part of history. And I was like, hey, we should go sign. He's like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like, no, come on, it'll be fun.
Hell no, man. I would have gone and signed it. Are you kidding me?
So he didn't sign it, but he did come with me when I signed it. So that's all I can ask.
Did you wear your proud Vipers sweatshirt?
I wore my Vipers sweatshirt, which turned out to be a mistake because it was actually kind of chilly that morning, and it looked like it was going to be kind of like a cold day for Florida, like at least enough that you'd be comfortable in a sweatshirt. But then it got like really warm. I was like, this was a mistake. But I did buy a hat.
Oh.
It's one of the 47 brand hats. It's just like it's like a forest green slouch cap with the Viper head logo on the front.
I believe the 47 brand is the official cap of the XFL.
It is the official cap of the XFL. It even has an XFL logo on the side.
Nice.
It's bothersome to me because I'm somebody that prefers the fitted hats, like a normal New Era 5950. And I haven't seen any just regular flat.
Look. Maybe if New Era plays their cards right, they can get on board with the XFL.
There you go. Right. I don't think 47 brand doesn't do fit fitted style, like 5950 style hats, do they?
No, they don't.
No, because I've got an Orioles 47 brand hat, which I don't normally like those, but I like the Orioles version of it for some reason. The guy gave it to me.
So more observations from the game. Again, my boyfriend was with me when I went to the Apollos game last year, and he really liked the take aim slogan. And the Vipers have their version of it, which is ready to strike.
That's not bad. That's not terrible.
According to Mike's boyfriend, not as good as take aim.
I agree with that, but I don't think that ready to strike is terrible either.
And so other than that, they're trying to get this like motion for fans to do in the stands. Like, the hand motion that Donald Trump did on The Apprentice was like, you're fired?
Yes.
So they're trying to get people to do that in the stands. It's like a snake head.
Like a snake bite? Oh,
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
They're trying to get that over. The only people who seem to be doing it were like the frat guys from a FSU fraternity who bought group tickets who seemed to get into it. But, it was fun. I can tell you one thing. Everyone there seems to want Quentin Flowers to start. And Mark Trestman really doesn't seem to want to make that happen.
Mark Trestman is a terrible coach. I'm surprised he got a job again. He really is.
No, it is amazing. So I can't even remember the guy. The guy's last name is Cornelius, I think. I don't know. Tampa. I'm gonna look it up. So the Vipers' first quarterback was Aaron Murray, who sucked. And so they replaced him. So everyone wants Quentin Flowers basically to start because he's a local guy. He played for FSU.
Okay.
And, but instead they started this guy, Taylor Cornelius. And I've never heard of this person. I don't know.
Great name.
Right? I kept calling him Yukon Cornelius. But he was.
He will forever be known on this show as Yukon Cornelius after this. That's great.
Yes, so Yukon Cornelius is having a pretty bad first quarter. And everyone, at least everyone in our section, was chanting, "We want Flowers," and then for finally Quentin Flowers came in, actually did pretty well. Like he scored the first offensive touchdown. It was a QB sneak. So he scored the first offensive touchdown in Vipers history. You know, he's actually seemed to be doing pretty well. And then they went back to Yukon Cornelius afterwards for reasons that only Mark Trestman seems to understand. And, like, I get being frustrated, like, you know, especially for a team like this, which is, like, it's a new team, so, like, they don't have roots, so they're basically asking you to get invested based off nothing, and you see the coach do something stupid where it's like, you know, clearly the best QB isn't being given a chance. We don't understand why. I understand being frustrated. But, like, the way our setup was like, behind us were the drunken Bears fans. And I want to apologize for Andy. I realize # not all Bears fans. But in front of us were like 2 families who had brought their little kids. It was like 4 parents and like 6 children. And so when Trestman pulled Flowers, despite having a pretty good offensive series, and put in Cornelius again, like the Bears fans are like, "Fuck you, Trestman, go fuck off and die," and like the parents are like glaring back, and it's like this really uncomfortable situation where it's like, kids, man, like, come on. So yeah, it was a colorful situation, a bit more interesting than the Apollos game. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think Apollos fans were probably of a classier breed than Vipers.
Well,
fans.
I got a couple of questions about Yukon Cornelius.
Okay.
Did he ever say anything like observe the Bumble's number one weakness, you know, or like the Roughnecks number one weakness, Roughnecks? Never mind. I'm blowing the joke. Anyway,
okay,
would he like throw his football and then it would come back and he'd look it and go nothing?
No. See. Okay, so you mentioned, but you mentioned players. You know,
you're really trying for that reference, Greg.
I had to get there somehow, man.
But you're talking about, like, did the player say anything? So you know how that's one of the big things in the XFL that people were going gaga over. It's like, oh, they're interviewing the players on the sidelines, right? So here's what I gathered. I don't know if it's like this in every XFL stadium or home game experience, but in Tampa at least, you don't get to act. You can see it, but you can't hear it. So what happens is they cut into the live broadcast when the interviews are happening on the big screen, right? So you see the sideline reporter going up to the player and interviewing them, but they're not piping the sound through.
Yeah.
Huh.
So you're basically sitting there watching just someone interview a football player in total silence.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that's just some sort of technical difficulty and not a feature.
Yeah, 'cause I thought wasn't the interviews and stuff, weren't they going over the PA at the Wildcats game? Because it sure sounded like it on TV.
I think so.
Yeah.
We couldn't hear anything. It was weird. Probably technical difficulty. It wouldn't.
I want to bring this up.
It's Florida. The PA guy's probably on meth. So
the greatest thing would have been if Cornelius had come off the field and yelled "gold" at his interview. But anyway, I just want to point out Mark Trestman.
Mike, do you know what Greg is referencing?
No, I don't.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. This is where Yukon Cornelius comes from, guys.
I know that.
See, here's the thing.
That's what I was asking Mike. It's a Christmas special. I don't know if Mike's seen it.
No, see, here's the thing.
He called him Yukon Cornelius.
No, see, here's the thing. I called him Yukon Cornelius. I know the name Yukon Cornelius. I have no idea what it's from. It's just
he's a weird minor lumberjack from those old claymation Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh, okay.
Christmas specials.
See, to me,
that Christmas special is as old as I am, guys. It goes way back.
I've seen it.
That name was just one of those things that to me was floating around in the pop culture sphere, but like I didn't know where it came from.
Just go on YouTube and look up Yukon Cornelius clips, and you'll get everything you need to know about him.
But yeah,
I'm going to go to Mark Trestman for a second.
Okay.
Mark Marilyn Trestman. His middle name is Marilyn. So I just wanted to point that out. Took over as the offensive something or other for my Cleveland Browns in 1988. And the team went from scoring like 35 points a game down to about 12. And they were fucking awful. And then that was it. And before you knew it.
Mark Trestman, one of the things that they did manage to pipe through on the PA. So before the game, to get everyone hyped up, they have these video packages, which I pity the Vipers video package people, because how do you hype people up when the team's already 0-2 going into the first home game? Like, that's a Nathan Peterman level hype package. But they were playing some of Trestman's locker room speeches. And yeah, Zach, what you were saying like earlier, like, he is not the guy who's going to inspire the hearts of men.
No. He is Jewish, though, Mike. Did you know that?
Is he?
Yes.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Well, you got to own the bad ones along with the good ones, dude, when it comes to sports.
That's unfortunate. But he is, like, I don't know, man. It was one of those things where, like, I guess getting to the actual game, the Vipers actually look good. Like, I was expecting a curb stomping because Houston, was undefeated going in. Tampa was 0-2. I was like, this is going to get ugly fast. Tampa actually hung with them, and they were in it up until the final minute of the fourth quarter when they when Yukon Cornelius threw an interception. And at that point, it was like, we left. We're like, hey, minute left, just threw a pick, it's over. So, it wasn't really the ass kicking that I thought it was going to be. They held on. I definitely think that they could beat DC, especially after seeing the dismal performance DC put on against Zach's LA Wildcats.
Yeah, that was rough. Yeah.
So I'd say all in all, I had a good time.
That's the goal. I mean, that's I think what's going to make the XFL successful this time around is two things. They're not trying to compete with the NFL, and they're just making it a fun family experience instead of. I watched some of those cheerleader commercials from the first time around. I was like, oh my god, this is porn practically. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because I was kind of observing my surroundings through the entire kind of experience, like, what does an XFL game look like in person? And I already kind of shared, the arena looking, the stadium being full of Bucs stuff. So obviously, first home game in team history. The team's only been around for 2 games prior to this one. So what are people going to wear? Now, there were some people who had Viper stuff. Some people had T-shirts or sweaters, or some people had hats and jerseys and whatnot. I saw a lot of people who clearly just picked out whatever green football thing they had.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of.
Were there any Rough Riders jerseys?
No Rough Riders jerseys, but I saw a lot of Favre Jets jerseys, including a guy wearing a Favre Jets jersey and a Make America Great Again hat.
Oh my god!
Oh boy!
I mean, just the colors alone is bad enough, but Jesus, really?
In keeping with the general wrestling theme, because Vince McMahon, WWE. I saw a few wrestling shirts. I saw a New Day shirt and a New World Order shirt. Those were interesting. The Vipers came out to John Cena's theme song. That was fun. And I saw a lot of original XFL gear. I saw a guy with a He Hate Me jersey.
Nice.
A guy with a Memphis Maniacs jersey.
Wow.
Which is a deep cut, because that's like one of the obscure original XFL teams. Very few people remember.
Yes.
I wonder, there's a place across the bay, I think it's in Largo, that is a really good sports shop if you want to get jerseys and stuff. I mean, he carried everything. He had, like, you could walk in there and buy a Chargers jersey, a Rams jersey, a Browns jersey, Packers, whatever you wanted, he had it. Now, and I'm wondering if back then, if he was carrying XFL stuff. Because he had, literally everything you could think of.
Now, what's funny, the funniest original XFL gear sighting that I had, so we went up to go look at the merch stand. They had 2 merch stands. And after we were done kind of perusing the shirt rack, we turn around, and there are 2 guys behind us. And these guys are decked out in Orlando Rage gear from the first XFL.
Nice.
Jerseys.
They've just been waiting their time.
Yes, they were both wearing Rage jerseys. One of them had a Rage hat. The other had a Rage visor.
Nice.
And it's like, and they're like, yeah, man. It's like XFL returns to Florida. It's like you guys are, you've been carrying the flame, haven't you?
I wonder if do you think they're pissed that Tampa got the team instead of Orlando?
I mean,
they're probably like, there was a diehard fan base in Orlando. This is bullshit.
Well, apparently, like, the AAF kind of kept the XFL out of Orlando because nobody knew that the AAF was going to go tits up. So, you're looking, and the AAF had launched first. So if you're the XFL, you're like, well, we can't put a team in Orlando. The AAF's in Orlando. So it's like, where do you go? But
do you think they have a closet full of Apollo's gear also, or?
I did see I saw one girl with an Apollo shirt.
See, if I would have gone to that game, Mike, I'd have worn that Apollo's jersey you've got. That's what I would have worn.
See, I was considering it, but I thought, like, would that be too niche? I was like, no, I don't want to stand out. I'm just going to wear my gray sweater with a.
I wish somebody would have been there with, like, an Apollo's shirt, is there any other experimental leagues I'm missing? I guess just go with, like, a Buccaneers sweatshirt.
The UFL. Don't forget the UFL.
The Florida Huskers.
The Florida Tuskers, yes. They were wearing like an Apollo shirt, a Tuskers sweatshirt, like, a zip-up hoodie so it was open. So you could see all 3 teams all at once.
Well, really, you could go back and go Tampa Bay Bandits if you want to go to the USFL. I don't remember
if they had Tampa Bay Arena League team.
Yeah, the Storm.
Yes, and then the World Football League, I think, were the Florida Floridians or some stupid shit.
That's amazing.
Or no, maybe was that what they were called? I think Tampa was called the Sun or something like that, or the. Oh no, shit! No, they were. Oh, now I got to look it up. But yeah, you could really go. You could go whole hog with that stuff, man.
There's somebody out there that's like, I'm not an NFL fan. I like football, but I just can't support them. So they've supported every other team that's come through town.
He's on our boards and he speaks Esperanto. Yeah.
I was gonna say. So what? The Florida version of Ferdinand Cesario?
Right, exactly.
He's basically exactly like Ferdinand Cesario, only more pastel Hawaiian shirts. So.
Right. Let's see. Teams. Here we go.
But yeah, the Orlando Rage guys were a hoot.
Florida. I'm sorry, it was the Florida Blazers. Florida Blazers in the World Football League.
But yeah, honestly, the family-friendly experience probably would have been better without the drunken Bears fans hurling insults at Mark Trestman.
Oh wait, no, here's what they needed to do.
As deserved as it may have been.
For our Justin Foley and Florida football team gear, a person could have worn a Jacksonville Sharks jersey from 1974 from the WFL and a Jacksonville Express jersey from 1975. So they had a team both years, but there were 2 different teams in Jacksonville. Yeah. But yeah, I would like to go to one. I just, if it lasts till next year, I'm going to be down there for all of January and February, so then I could actually go to one. But
hey, if it lasts till next year, hit me up. We'll hang out at the XFL.
Yeah, well, I was going to tell you too. My trip that I was planning on coming down got canceled, so I'm going to Key West instead at the end of next year.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'll be down there from January through February, maybe even longer, and we'll have to definitely go to one. I'd love to. I think it'd be fun. It'd be a hoot.
It was, it's a good time. It's one of those things where, I mean, honestly, the quality of football, it's the same thing that I said about the AAF, which is that, like, if you just, like, adjust your expectations and realize you're not going to get, like, NFL or even really like Division I college quality play. Like if you just go in being like, it's minor league football, then it's a good time. But yeah, good game. Even though Tampa now owns the basement of the XFL.
Yes.
They're the only winless team. And your Roughnecks are the only undefeated team.
Yeah, I know. I thank God that app landed me on the Roughnecks, or the little GIF that they were using on Twitter landed me on the Roughnecks.
You were leaning towards them anyway.
Oh yeah, it's a nostalgia.
The Walmart Oilers.
The Walmart Oilers, yeah, I like that. But I don't know if their uniforms are my favorites. I thought Washington looked really good in all white yesterday. DC, I mean, excuse me.
DC's uniforms are really nice. They just have to not go monochrome.
Yeah, I mean, if you wore the red jersey over those white pants, that'd be the best uniform in the league, I think.
Now, speaking of uniforms, Tampa's uniforms look awful in person. And another story from the crowd. This is more evidence that I have that, the normies, as we call them, don't understand uniforms. Because, not the Bears fans, but, some other people, to the side behind us were talking about uniforms, actually.
Oh, God.
And they were talking about the Vipers. And one of them was, and I didn't catch the whole conversation, but I caught this part where someone went, I like the Vipers jerseys. They remind me of the Packers.
In what fucking universe?
They are green and yellow.
Okay. Well, all right. Fair enough, I suppose. But yeah, I can't say I'm a big fan of my Roughnecks on the road in the uniforms, but what are you gonna do?
As I watch the Wildcats again, if they, as it is with most of these teams, if they just wore different colored pants,
yeah,
all these looks would be vastly.
I actually think that the Wildcats and the Vipers are kind of in the similar boat, not just in that contrasting pants would help, but also that. I think both teams would benefit greatly if they use their alternate logos on the helmets, because the V that the Vipers use isn't great, and the LA monogram isn't great. So,
back to the uniforms for a second. St. Louis wore the gray pants. I mean, the helmet's still stupid, but the rest of it didn't look half bad.
St. Louis had a pretty good showing. I think they had 28,000 people at the Dome.
Yeah, I heard Seattle is really just killing it with the attendance right now.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about
Seattle loves this weird shit. I don't get Seattle. People
in Seattle turn out for rugby, man.
I mean, they sell out the football stadium for the MLS.
I know.
So I've come around on MLS, but I don't think it needs to be in actual football stadiums. But
So the funny thing about Seattle, I wanted to talk – we didn't do a show last week, so I didn't get to talk about it, but I wanted to talk about it now. So I watched that game because it was week 2 was Tampa-Seattle in Seattle, and it was Seattle's home opener.
Are we talking about the eternal flame of Dragonstone?
Oh, my God.
So they had what's his name? I forget. He was a wide receiver for the Seahawks. Big deal.
Steve Largent?
Yes, Largent. Okay.
Did Steve Largent open up that game?
Wow.
So Steve Largent was on hand for the Seattle Dragons home opener, and they've given him this medieval times Renaissance fair-esque torch. And they're like, Seattle football legend Steve Largent is going to light the Dragon's cauldron, the eternal flame of our XFL glory.
Oh, my God.
The eternal flame of our 2 weeks of existence.
And it's like, I get it. You want to make a big deal. You want people to get excited. It's like, you're the XFL. We don't even know if this thing's going to last till the end of the year, man.
Don't call anything eternal.
Yeah. It's maybe wait until year 2, and then you can start your weird traditions. All right?
Yeah, I'm almost nervous.
Start the tradition somewhere. I'm fine with them lighting the flame. Calling it eternal is
A bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be a little nervous that they just jinx the hell out of it, and now it won't last the season.
Our eternal flame, and then it turns out that like WWE stock prices plummeted, and Vince has to shut down the league to save money, and it's like, oh well, all right.
Well, more gear's available now. I'm on the website, and now you can get a T-shirt, Houston Roughnecks T-shirt.
So, like I've said, the Roughnecks are someone's Patriots concept from like 10 years ago.
They're the Walmart Oilers, man. Come on. Oh, geez, this is great.
I have found it interesting that their NFL players have embraced the XFL much more than the AAF. Like at the Wildcats opener last week, Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon were on the sidelines.
I mean, Troy Aikman was on the sidelines for the first game in Dallas.
Yeah, it does seem to have just all the much more legitimacy than the AAF ever had, which is
really, really weird. It's really weird because the AAF seemed to have more support from like the NFL brass.
Yes.
Because like the NFL like allowed the AAF to be aired on the NFL Network. Jerry Jones was rocking an AAF hat. Like it seemed like the NFL wasn't adverse to the idea of a minor league spring football league, but they would have much rather have preferred the AAF than the XFL for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I think what the difference is players think the XFL is cool, and management hates the XFL because none of them like Vince McMahon.
Right.
Yeah. That would be my theory.
But I will say, though, that 3 weeks in, I don't think it's a bad product. It's if you're looking for NFL football or high-quality football, you're probably in the wrong place. But if you want to be entertained and you just want to watch some football instead of, I don't know what, basketball or hockey or exhibition baseball or whatever, it's definitely worth a look, I think.
If you're a football junkie that needs it, it's there. It's not appointment viewing, but it's there. It fills the gap between the NFL season and the CFL season, right, Mike?
Yeah. The CFL, I think the CFL is going to manage this just what people are. I mean, this is one of the things. This is where I don't like tribalism, because people tend to be like, people tend to get all up and be like, oh, is the XFL is going to kill the CFL? Like we can all like everything, can't we? And it's like the CFL
has nothing to do with each other. Really.
The CFL has been around longer than the NFL has. It's going to be fine, right?
Yeah. The Toronto Boat Club.
Exactly. Right. The Toronto Argonauts defeated the Toronto Rowing and Crochet.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking it was a hockey team. That was a football team, which makes it even better. That's right. Yeah. So anyway, but I don't know, anything else, guys, or should we wrap it up? We're way over our normal 90 minutes here, so
I think
we didn't have a show last week. People.
We got. You know what? I think other than the NFL, we talked every major sport. We did the NHL, we did the NBA, we did, well, I guess if you want to call the XFL a major sport, but actually baseball.
Football was involved. We did talk about NFL players.
Yeah.
We should bring in the fifth major sport, by the way, guys, because it's the last week of February, which means
time we're going to finally talk fucking NASCAR, right?
No.
Oh, all right.
It means somewhere around the corner, quite soon, the glorious Tournament of Victory.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yes.
I came up with one of my best, most inspired entries right before we started recording tonight because I was thinking about it. But yeah, so everybody get to work on your entries. If Andy participates, that would be great. But if he doesn't, I had an idea. If he says I'm just done, I'm on the show once a year and blah blah blah, I would get that. But on the off chance that he doesn't, what do you guys think about like throwing it out there and letting the listeners pick 16 and putting them in like their own bracket?
Oh, the people's bracket.
The people's bracket, yes. The Republic of People's bracket.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
So I don't want to boot Andy out. I'm just saying, but like he might not want to do it anymore. I don't know. We haven't talked to him in a while, and he might be like, screw you guys. You only ask me to be on once a year, so forget it.
My only issue with that would be that. Since the people are the ones that are already voting on these things, they might end up with a bias towards their champion.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, Andy can send his. He didn't have to be on the show to do it. He did it once like that before, so I'm sure he'll give us a bracket. I just didn't know if he'd want to do the show or not. He may. That'd be great if he does.
Emeritus,
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to come, he's always welcome to come back whenever he wants. I just, I know he's married now, and His life's changed a lot since he first did the show with us. So, but yeah, so we will have the GTOV selection show coming up here in the next week or two. What's the NCAA selection show?
NCAA. Hold on.
We try to line it up Sunday. As best we can with the basketball tournament. It's next Sunday, isn't it?
Selection Sunday is the 15th
of March.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a little time yet then.
We
got
2 weeks.
So ours will be on the 16th of March.
Yeah.
And if you've got ideas, submit them to us on the boards.
Make a thread. Yeah.
And if we don't go with the people's thing, which I think Zach's right, that could be a problem. But we can
either
always,
way. It's we need suggestions.
Submit your ideas.
We've done this for a long time now.
Yeah, we may use some, we may not. But I think Tank's Meltdown got in via a user suggestion, or a listener suggestion.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Perhaps making the list, maybe Zach, Robert Patterson's bat suit.
Jesus. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not quite sold. I need context. It looks. I don't know.
I'm not hopeful.
Batman's not Daredevil.
The shot I saw of it reminded me of a bad Daredevil ripoff, and not like Daredevil was good to start with.
But the bat's a gun. The gun that killed his parents.
Has that been confirmed?
No, but it's a fun fan theory that people are playing with.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, March 16th, Monday, March 16th will be the GTOV selection show. And then the tournament will be off and running for what was this, like the 8th year, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
8th one. Yeah. The eighth annual Glorious Tournament of Victory. Accept no substitutes, folks. On that note, I guess we're done. We'll call it a night, huh?
Sounds good.
Okay, so get those entries in. You can do it on the boards at, if you know where the boards are, if you're a member. I'm not going to put it out there because I don't want a bunch of fucking morons showing up. No offense to the rest of our listeners, but you never know who's listening. Otherwise, hit us up on Twitter at Basically Sports. You can go on our Facebook page and make suggestions there. And subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, YouTube, and Stitcher. We'll see you next time.
If any of you would have better memories than us, because you all remember our show is better than us, if we've said at any point, hey, that should be a GTOV entry, remind us, please.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Exactly. Yeah, because we, over the course of a year, we'll go, hey, we need to write that down, and then no one ever does, and some of the best entries ever have just disappeared into the ether. So, yeah, remind us.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you next week, folks.
Latest.
This has been a Filmways presentation, darling.